All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining me on our first Q&A Zoom meeting for the OSU PDC Pro online program. We're going to sort of touch today on the platform itself, and that's a big part of. Oh, excuse me. Hopefully, I don't have to deal with that the whole hour. Yeah, that's a big part of it, is just navigating the program. And even when I started um, constructing, I guess it was about 7 years ago, I found it took a few classes to really get to know how to navigate on the platform, because it's not very intuitive in my opinion. But I'll give you as much of a heads up as I can and show you a few of the ropes here. So maybe what we'll do is we'll start with that. We'll just look at the platform itself, and then we'll take a look at the lesson 1 assignment, and we can show you a couple of examples of previous students' work, and yeah, where to find some resources and help if you need it. So I think what I'll do here is just share my screen. There we go. All right, so this is probably what you all will see when you log in to the program. And basically, how we all interact and how you're going to post all of your work is through these various discussion boards. And of course, we have the first one here that everybody, well, a lot of people have chimed in on, is the introduce yourself. And then we've got our lesson 1 assignment that's right below it here. And then each, probably getting close to a week before a lesson is due, I will go down and I'll pin that up on the board here so it's easy to access. As well, we have a few other helpful discussion boards. We've got a general help. So if anything comes up and you're unsure of how to move forward, this is one way of getting help from me. I keep my eye on on this discussion board pretty regularly. So if you do post a question, you're apt to get a response pretty quick. And let's see, we've got this open thread. So if there's anything you want to post that's permaculture related to the rest of your classmates, this is a place you can do that. And then we have our Q&A Zoom meeting page here. So all the dates are here, and the time, and the link. And then what I do is I will post the video right below here. I actually post it on my YouTube channel, and then I'll post it here. So if anybody wants to check out previous videos, they certainly can, accessing my YouTube channel. And I will put that on here a little later. But so that's really how you're navigating through the discussion boards, right? Now, let's say you have your assignment all ready to go. This is exactly how you would post it. So you'd, a simple hello or greeting, and then you would share the Google document link. And let's give a quick look at that. So what we want to do, and Julian here was eager out of the gate to post his information, but what we want to do is put all of our work into this PDC Pro template file. So if you click on that and download it, you'll see up here, it wants you to make a copy. And you pretty much have to do that in order to do any work with it. So it's pretty simple. We're just going to make a copy of the entire presentation. You can put your first name there. It's always helpful. And that's going to save that file to your Google Drive. So it's kind of a cloud drive. And now you can start working on it and adding to it each lesson. So when you go to share that, you want to click this button up here, because right now nobody could view it except myself. You'd want to click that button, and then you want to check anyone with the link. And then you've got a number of different options here. You can let people view or commentate or edit. So I wouldn't recommend you allow people to edit, but you can do view or commentate for sure. Now, most often what will happen is if you are looking at somebody else's work and you want to make a comment on that, it's usually made within the discussion board itself. But if you're able to, you can do it within the file. So, and then once we have this all set, you just hit copy link and push done. And then I could go back here and right at the top, I could say, here's my work. And post that. I won't do that now, but I will just post that, and then, well, here I will. So I'll delete it. So that shows up at the bottom as the last entry. And then if someone was to read this and they want to make a comment on it, you would just hit the reply button beneath that itself, right? So it's pretty straightforward. And that's how you'll provide feedback for people. Let me get rid of that. There we go. Yeah, so that is basically what we want to use, this template file. And you'll notice if you zoom out, you'll notice that around each page, there are quite a few tutorials. So there's a lot of information available. If there's any questions you have, the odds are 99% of the questions are answered here. And these are all video tutorials. And that, you definitely want to check these out at the beginning, because this is kind of the setting up sort of the master for your sheet as you go through here. And then you'll notice that, other pages will have just a few. And then this first assignment, you're going to do your personal survey, and you're going to do your design site and your climate survey. So that might seem like a bit of work, but it's actually not too daunting. I will say the most difficult assignment you probably will find is when we get to lesson 5. And that's probably the hardest for most people, but the early part of the journey here is not too bad. And I'm certainly here to help anybody out if you are having trouble. For those who have any challenge working with the Google Documents at all, usually Dow Orion will put out a notification early in the course that if you're having trouble, she'll do a Zoom one-on-one with you. So there's lots of resources to help you out. And but what I will do is I will circulate a link. I'll probably put it up in the help discussion board, or I'll send it out as a note that if you just, you're having a lot of trouble, you can't figure it out, and you don't see the answers within the template file here, you can just book an appointment with me to have a Zoom meeting, and we can do that. And usually I find that is uh, super helpful in lesson 5 for a lot of people, and leading up to it, not so much, but don't hesitate to take advantage of that, because we want to keep you moving forward. There's a lot, as I'm sure you can imagine, there's a lot of information to take in just with all the content, let alone the work that you're being asked to do here. So you don't want to fall too far behind. And if you fall, say, more than 2 weeks behind, then it'll get less fun for you, and we want to keep it fun. So I know occasionally I've had students right at the end of the course submit 3 or 4 lessons in a row, and it's not ideal for them, and they don't really get the same value out of the course. But life does happen, and sometimes things get in the way. So I totally get that. So let's get away from that. So we all know about what to use in terms of putting our work. Now, a couple of things that you want to keep in mind here. At the beginning of any lesson on the discussion board here, you'll have all the various lessons, and then you're going to have a description below, and you also have resources here. So there's quite a few resources on this section, as you can see. And then we have the rubric and a couple more assignment submission resources. So the rubric, you'll want to reference every time you do an assignment, because this is what I use when I grade your paper, or not paper, but when I grade your assignment. So as long as you're basically ticking all the boxes here, you're going to get full marks. And, for some people, that's really important. And for others, they just, that's not necessarily where you're going to get the whole value from the course. But what I do is I like to do video feedback for people. And what I do is I do a small Zoom recording with your assignment on the page, and then just go through it and provide feedback that way. I find that's really helpful for people, and much easier than typing it out and trying to reference certain things. So that's generally how I provide feedback. If that doesn't work for you for any reason, then please let me know, and I will make sure I do it in another format that does work for you. But so far, I haven't had anybody that hasn't enjoyed that. And generally, it's on a Dropbox link that I'll put in the discussion board, that you don't even have to download it. You can look at it in a preview section. And then if you do want to download it and keep it, you're quite welcome to do so. Within a month or 2 after the course, I have to go through and clean out my Dropbox a little bit. So if you did wanted to retain it, you'd want to download that. So that is lesson 1 and a little bit of an overview. A couple of other things here. So when I'm logging in here, it's going to be a little different for all of you, because I'm sure you're not taking all those courses. So when I get to this page, which is obviously where you start, you'll notice on the left we have some columns. Some may not be visible on your desktop, I'm not sure, but one you might want to check out is the modules page here. And there are some very interesting resources. One of them is called the client interface. So if we go here, we have a video that Andrew, myself, Kelda, and Neil put together. And each of these videos talks about our process with designing with a client, sort of a beginning to end procedure that we go through, and they're all completely different. So that'll be, if you're interested in designing, if you are now and you want to do more of it, this might be a really good little nugget to check out. It is very interesting to see how everybody else does their work. And so that's a great one. There's a whole bunch of other resources on this page as well. Sometimes a student will have to stop midstream. You know, it might be a medical reason, could be family. And then there's a re-enrollment page, what that's all about. There's some sample reports here, which are very interesting. I don't know if they've been updated lately, but so you can check these out if you have any questions about what what other people have done. So this is somebody who lives on Vancouver Island, not too far from me, and this is their personal survey. And the template file is set up as such where you can drop in images easily. You can add your text pretty easily. And then of course there's a climate survey. You might find that some of these examples are slightly different than the template file that you have, because not every class, but once in a while the template file gets adjusted a little bit, tweaked to improve it. So that's one thing you might find. So there's 4 examples there. So those are a good resource. And then there's basically deeper information about each lesson, and then right up until we get to the end when we're into lesson 10 and our final assignment. So I think what you'll find is that the course is structured really well to take you step by step through the beginning of site analysis. You'll actually notice that we do a lot of that. We're doing it with the first lesson when we're looking at personal survey and climate. And then when we get into a deeper site analysis with sector analysis and zones, yeah, it's very well put together that way. And my wife and myself operate a design and build company in Lanceville here in Vancouver Island, BC. And we do our designs a little bit different than what the template file has here. And we'll be showing you examples of our work as we go through the course. And I think what you might find when you get to the very end, and if you want to continue on with this as a career or just whatever that may be, you want to do more designs, you'll probably find, a template that works for you. This template file is really good in terms of this course and learning, but if you were to, for instance, take a look at this template file, let's see how many pages it is. So we're almost at, well, we're say 139, 140. That would be really hard to produce for a client. That's a lot of information. So what we do is we look at, depending on the type of design we're doing, whether it might be an urban or a homestead design, we generally have different layers that we look at rather than quite as broad as it is done here. We look at basically water, access, and soil and go through those. But this is very similar in that we're looking at one item at a time rather than trying to envision the whole design all in one go. So I think you'll find that really helpful. It's a very logical protocol that you go through. And for us, water is a big driving force in the landscape. And that really sets the tone for the rest of our work. And we also do farm design, and we'll probably touch on that during the course as well, and that's quite different. Actually doing some ongoing training with the Agrarians. So it's Darren Doherty. He's in Australia, and he put together what's called the Agrarian platform. And there's 10 different layers there, from climate all the way through to energy. So it's a very different, it's for broad acreage and a fascinating system. And yeah, so we won't get distracted today on that one. Let's go back to where we were. Yeah, and then there's, of course, the syllabus and your grades you can take a look at. If I click on that, you're going to see everybody on the whole class. I'm not even sure if you see that, but you can access your grades there. And if you ever have any questions about your grades, feel free to ask. Generally speaking, if you have, again, included all the items that are in the rubric, there's no issues. I will always give you my personal opinion on stuff. Yeah. So again, it'll be in the video feedback that I provide to you if there is anything. Oh, there you go. Shouldn't have done that. Anything, let's say, and it does happen in lesson 5 where things can get tricky. Let's say that you didn't get all the marks you wanted to, and you wanted to redo something. No problem at all. Just resubmit it and let me know in the discussion board, and I'll take a look at it again. I probably won't give you another round of feedback, but or video feedback, but I'll definitely regrade it for you. No problem at all. And that holds for every assignment. Yeah. Let's see here. What I should do, I'm just going to switch over to Google Earth here for a minute, because that's something that you're going to have to embrace. Some of you will be more used to that than others. So Google Earth Pro is it's a powerful little program. It for what it is, it's great. And for this class, it's really, really helpful. So a couple of things to make note of that will make your life a lot easier navigating it if you're unsure about it. But you'll notice when you zoom in and out that you're not directly overhead. Okay, so if let's say this was your project site property, and I would recommend when you take a screenshot, you want to be directly overhead of the site in what's called kind of a 2D overhead view. So to do that, you just tap the U key on your keyboard, and boom, you'll be right over the top of the. So if I go back out and I move around, same thing is going to happen. I'll get put into a weird perspective, and I'd have to hit the U key to go back over. If I've been changing my orientation at all, I can hit the U key, and if you hit the N key, you'll go north up. So that is something that you'll want to keep in mind for all of your mapping, all of your space plan or larger picture mapping, is you want to keep north up. And it doesn't always work with the page format, but it is super helpful for myself, and it's basically the architectural standard. So it's good to get used to. Generally speaking, if we have a long, narrow lot that we're working with, we'll just turn the page that we printed out on. And I don't think that's a possibility with the Google Slides. So you may find that you have your base plan or your site on the page, and it's not filling the whole page. And I wouldn't worry too much about that because there's going to be a bit of annotation. So you're going to have a legend and you're going to have some other items that you're going to be putting on the same page. So you don't necessarily have to fill the whole page with your map. And let me show you an example of that. Well, we'll go back to that. So that's just a little bit about Google Earth. A couple other things you can do too. Let's say this was our property and we wanted to figure out the area. If we hit the polygon tool, we can draw by just clicking. I'm not sure where, well, it probably goes to here. And then there's another box here I'm sure you can't see. But one of the tabs is measurements and area. So we can get a square footage. So right now that's telling me it's 23,000 square feet. So that's one way of getting the area of rooftops and your property. And it's, it's, not necessarily the most accurate. And there we can take the fill out. We can change the color of that property line to red. That's a good color to use. And then you can basically save that. Once we press OK on the polygon, that's in your Google Earth menu. You'll have that through the course. And Google Earth Pro is free, so that's a nice bonus. And this is, of course, approximate, but if you can, it's a good start. I mean, we don't use Google Earth Pro for our work, for designing, but we do use it for other things. We'll show you what we do use it for here. So we, this project site is in white. Oh, there we go. And this is a slope analysis we did on this small farm project. And you can see, let's see here. We'll take that out and we can put in, there's our contours. And we get this all from LiDAR. So we download LiDAR data and we're able to convert it and put it into contours. We can generate contours that we can then export into Google Earth, which is great. And you can also do some cool things like this, where you're creating what's called a hillshade map. So you get an idea of the relief, which is pretty cool. But, that would be a whole course unto its own. So Google Earth has a lot of uses. We don't specifically use it for our work, our design work. It's more for communication. So we can send, I could send, which I have sent client this file, and they can open it up at their end and they can see the data overlaid onto this, which is pretty powerful. I think that's about it for Google Earth. Does anybody have any questions about that at all? No?
I kind of do. Hi, I'm Kayla. Sorry, I have my video off because I have a toddler doing wild things right now. But I have a question about, can I do the water portion of that through Google Earth? Like I saw like the contours, but I saw like I looked ahead and it said that we're gonna have to collect like kind of like drainage of the water.
Yeah.
Can I do that through Google Earth?
Well, is your project site urban or is it a rural property?
I'm in an urban.
Right. Okay, well, I'll show you what I generally do with that. Google Earth won't provide you with that sort of contour data, but we do have a little tool we can use. There we go. And it's called Contour Creator. And it's not the most accurate thing in the world. So it's great for this course, but it is, yeah, it's not something you'd want to use on your project, a project that you're being paid for. We'll say that. Because it's what it does is it takes Google Earth terrain information and it's just not high enough resolution. I'm sure they do have that resolution, but they don't give it to the public. So with Contour Creator, you can just punch an address in here and it will go to your site. I'll just show you a quick example here. All right. So let's say that this is your project site. And down here you have a whole bunch of settings that you can tweak. So what I do is I would put it to your units to feet, and then I generally want to see consistent contours. So I put, let's say 1 foot contours. We can start with that. And then once you have the settings done here, you would click on one portion, the upper portion and the lower portion of let's say the block, right? Because in urban areas, once you get to a road, that's pretty much like a drainage channel. So once you have the outline where you want it, we're just going to say get data. And then we have 1 foot contours so that we could zoom in. And now you can see it does the same thing it does on Google Earth, but we have to hit this key here to go overhead. Just want to back out a little. So these are 1 foot contours and there's so many being shown, but basically the blue is the lowest and it graduates up to yellow, red, orange. It's not telling us what each number is, but these are 1 foot apart and they're going in this direction. So for an urban property, that's where I would recommend you could get your contours. And if it looks too busy, you can just change that number to say 2 and we could redraw it. But usually in an urban area, 1 is good. On larger properties, you'd probably need to tweak that or the and there are so many places you can get contour data, like where I live. We have, I can just quickly show you because you may have a similar thing. Wow. A lot of areas have these interactive maps. And they're all GIS based. Oh, I might not be in the right place here. There we go. So, and generally, these are pretty much North American wide, and they're all going to be a little different, but they will be able to provide us with contour data, but they won't be very, like here, they're 2-meter contours, right? So not really going to be helpful for what we're doing, but they're better than nothing in some in some ways. So you could try that. But again, Contour Creator will probably be easiest, simplest. When we do does our design work, generally we'll get either we'll download LiDAR data and create our own contours, or we'll have a drone data do it for us, or a drone operator do it for us. And we get high resolution images as well as 1-foot contours, and they're all geo-referenced. So those are a couple of ways that we get accurate contour data. But, other than that, it's in Oregon, I think most of the state has had LiDAR data taken of it. So there should be fairly, you check your local regional offices for that kind of data. You never know, they might have it. But again, when we get into urban, it's really not as vital. We just need to know generally. So hope that wasn't too confusing. But when we get into more work for pay, we're definitely wanting to get as accurate information as possible. Because you can see in this case, if this was your project site, let me just do a little scribble here. This is what we'll be doing in lesson 5, and I don't want to get too far ahead. But let's say this was our project site. We want to take a look at all the lands uphill from it and try and figure out what runoff could affect the project site. So that's one of the reasons this contour information is pretty vital. Just not only for the slope and the way water is going to behave on your site, but what's going to happen when we get a large influx of water, and how that could influence your site here. So, but we'll get into that when we get to the Q&A for lesson 5. But if you can get contour data of some description early in the game, that would be helpful.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
No problem. All right. Let me see here.
Jamie, I have a question sort of about course navigation. Is now an okay time to ask that?
Sure.
I'm just wondering if there's like a recommended order to do things, like if you recommend doing all the videos and all the reading before your assignment, or if it really just kind of going back and forth works. Or I mean, and maybe my classmates have some advice on that too, but this is the first time I've used this sort of type of class before, and so I'm just trying to figure out how to like organize my workflow, I guess.
Well, that's a good question. I would say you'd want to navigate through a fair amount of the video content before you put your assignment together. But I totally understand time limitations that people are going to have as well. I think for the first lesson, it's pretty straightforward. We're just asking you for personal survey and a little bit about your project site, as well as the climate. So some of the climate data for that site or for the area. So I don't think you have to dive too deeply into Andrew's videos for that, but generally speaking, you would want to soak up as much of that as you can. I don't know if that's really helping you, but
No, that makes sense. That makes sense, because I was a little bit feeling like unsure if the videos were on this lesson important to watch before, because it didn't seem like they were quite as much, but that's helpful to know for the future too.
yeah, I'm sure I honestly haven't gone through the videos in quite a while, so I'm not even sure which ones are at the first lesson, but I'm sure they're quite introductory. But yeah, the what's being asked in the first lesson is pretty straightforward. When you get to your climate survey, you might want to check out the resources here, where to find some of that information, because we want to get annual average rainfall, some extreme rain events, as well as a general snapshot of, let's see. Let's just say you're in Portland. Many people that take the course are. If you go down, say you Wikipedia wherever you are, or wherever your project site is, often they'll have a beautiful little climate graph here that you can just copy and paste right into your work. And that'll give you a lot of good info. If the one thing you want to try and get to is that extreme precipitation event. If we go to climate survey, I'm not sure it was in this. The average annual rainfall is very important. I'm not sure if there is an extreme. And this is, yeah. So this student here had a nice graph showing rainfall, average annual rainfall over each month. But you definitely want to have a total at the end. So your yearly total, and then where you can, trying to find that extreme 24-hour rain event is very, very helpful. And, the beginning here, some of this is more, with your elevation, these are all very important. Are you going to reference these again? Probably not, but you will with the rainfall data, and knowing your hardiness zone. Koppen-Geiger classification, that's just interesting. That's not absolutely vital. So things like that. So yeah, this is if this had been my student, I would have asked him to dig for that 24-hour event. Now, not everybody will be able to find that, and that's okay. It's just if you're near a major metropolitan area, you should be able to find it. It's quite staggering when you do find it, just how much it is. And if you're designing any water system within your design, you want to basically be able to manage that amount of rainfall in one day. So yeah, so not sure if that answers your question.
I think so. I think it's helpful.
Yeah, okay. Trying to think if there's anything else here that I haven't touched on. I don't want to throw too much at you in the first Q&A here. We could look at a couple of more recent examples. So here's a student's example from last few courses. I'm not exactly sure. The spring course, there you go. So personal survey. And then there's a bit of a land acknowledgement, and then the design site. So we're kind of going from a macro into the micro here, right? So you're just basically taking screenshots from Google Earth And then you can see here, this person put a rough property boundary. So that's always a good thing to do if you can do it. And if you go, that's one thing I didn't show you. I should go back to Google Earth. There we go. So let's say this was your property boundary and you were taking a screenshot. You can see that there's a scale at the bottom here. Now that's because I've set this up so it's always showing a scale. Now, if you don't see a scale there and you can't figure out how to show it, what you do is you just go to print. And you can save a PDF, right? And you'll see in that bottom corner, you have a scale bar. So that's an important little item to carry forward. Give you an idea of scale, because that can be something people find tricky. And you don't have to worry about that for lesson 1. That's more for when you're creating your base plan. So when you get to that, we're going to have another Q&A, and I'll definitely run through all the things I feel are really important to include. And basically, the more work you put into your base plan, the better. So if you have a really good base plan to start with, it's just so much easier. And it can be harder to do as the site gets larger. So that's a little bit on scale. Cool. So does anybody have any other questions or anything you'd like me to take a look at today? It's probably a little bit overwhelming. And I totally get it. Just the platform itself can be a little bit tricky, but so I tell you what, I'll show you one thing here, and most of you probably know that one already. But if we are on the discussion board, you'll notice on the left is an inbox, right? So if you want to get a hold of me, there's a couple of ways. I've sent out a sort of an introductory note, I guess it was last week, and my email address is in there. So you can email me direct if you'd like, or you can just go to the inbox here and compose a new message. And then I'm not sure how it would look on your screen. I have to, find the right class and go from there. But this is one way you can send a message, and I'll get either one. If you have technical difficulties, generally I won't be able to help you with those. And what you'd want to do is go down to the help icon and press that. And then you'll have, I think it's like a 24/7 chat they have, and they also have a phone number you can reach somebody to walk you through any challenges you might have. So those are a couple of places for help. After today's call, I will send out a note with my scheduling link. So if anybody has challenges beyond the other resources here, you can certainly get a hold of me. But I generally find that most people are okay with the first few lessons, and it's as we get a little bit deeper, it gets a bit trickier. But again, Dow Orion will probably be circulating a note soon about anybody who has any technical challenges at all with the Google Documents, and she can do a one-on-one with you. So lots of resources. We want everybody to succeed, and I'm here to help you as much as possible and give you feedback on all your assignments. And I've been doing various types of design for quite a while, and always learning, right? Learn every day. And I really enjoy this part of my workflow, helping students out with their stuff here. So yeah. I can't think of anything else to run through with you today. Is there any questions at all? Because I'm happy to answer any of those.
Hi, I do have one.
Sure.
I saw a notification, I think it was for last year, about a change of the deadlines, the due dates for assignments. I'm
Right.
wondering if the due dates that we see on the website for this term are correct.
Okay.
Specifically,
Well,
assignment one. Is assignment one still due for the 16th?
okay. Well, let's take a look. All right. Due the 17th. So
Okay.
it's basically every other Monday at 9 a.m.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. And then when we get to the completion of lesson number 5, we'll have a short break, and then we'll start lesson 6. I can't remember. I think it's a 2-week break. Lesson 6 is July 3rd. Yeah, it'll be 2 weeks. So it's a good time to catch up if you have to. But yeah, so basically every 2 weeks from next Monday onward, and then we alternate it with the Q&As. So usually the Q&As are a week prior to the due date. And gives everybody a chance to have figured out if they have any questions at all. And I run through some of, every lesson, there's little potential challenges people might have that I've seen. So I point those out during the Q&A. So if for some reason you're not able to make the meeting, I would definitely check out the video, even though I know it's one more video you have to go through. And as well, what I didn't point out is this is especially for those who can't make the meeting. There's a Google document here that has been set up for any questions you have. So if you come, even if you're going to attend the meeting and you have a question for, say, well, we've gone through lesson 1. I just put your name and area and your question below. And then what I do is we'll address it during the course or during the Q&A, and then I'll also write the question or the answer out here. I don't have an example, but each class, we put images and text in here. It's a great little resource that you'll always have access to during the course anyhow. There's been no need to delete these, so they're still up there for everybody else. But this is one way, especially if you can't make a meeting, you can have your questions answered. Sorry, starting to lose my mind a bit. Yeah, so long-winded answer. Yeah, every 2 weeks, and it's alternating with Q&As and then of course the Q&A document there.
And another one. I don't own my own site. I'm looking to partner with someone else. And I think it's going to work out between me and her, but just in case, I'd like to see if I can nail down something else just so I don't get stuck. I'm wondering when is, obviously the sooner the better, but when would you say is the hard deadline when like we need to be on our site, we need to have things going?
Well, this lesson, of course, we're going to touch on the project site. but it's the next lesson, so lesson 2, where we're going to be actually creating a base plan. So that's a fair bit of work. So if you don't want to repeat that process, you'd want to try and nail that before this is due on May 1st. Yeah. So if for some reason that doesn't happen, you know, I have had students use public spaces before. There are other options rather than a residence. It just gets, it's maybe a little bit harder to do a public space because there's no house on it, and you kind of have to create a proposed building footprint, which you'd have to do anyways. Let's say you had you purchased some land without a house on it, you'd have to somehow determine, you know, where the best place for a house would be there. So yeah, I hope that helps, Watson. So we got a few weeks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, well, I think we're good. Well, I really appreciate everybody's flexibility and in changing our Q&A times. I'll assure you that won't happen again if I can help it. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure getting to see you all, and I look forward to seeing your first assignments. I generally, if we go to assignment 1 here, generally, if you post them early, I mean, that's completely fine, but I probably won't grade these until the due date. So what I would typically do on the Monday is I have a Q&A with one class because there's 2 classes going at once. So I do one Q&A, and then right after I start grading. And then that generally carries over a couple of days. So if you can't get your assignment in by 9, you know, don't fret. Getting it in later that day is just fine. And then, you know, just do your best. I'd just suggest not to fall too far behind. It can get increasingly tough to catch up. But yeah, it's been a good meeting, and I hope everybody got some value out of it. And I will post this video again on my YouTube channel. So what I'll do is I'll post the link on the discussion board so everybody can access not only the video, but you'll see where my YouTube channel is, so that if you want, you can even go back and look at other classes and stuff if you had the time, which I somehow doubt, but you never know. Anyhow, that was great to meet all of you today, and thank you again for your time, and we will see you in a couple weeks' time, and look forward to your assignment 1 or lesson 1 next Monday. So you take care.